But there are a lot of things that we're legislating on that aren't in the Constitution. So I don't think the federal government has any business. So as a U.S. Senator, I don't see where marriage is any of my responsibility. I think that's up to the states to determine. Right. If they want to define marriage as between a man and a woman, then that's what the states can do. If they want to define it as between two men or three women, whatever, it's up to the states. It's not up to the federal government to do it. And so, as a senator, I will vote against any legislation that tries to impose some kind of federal mandate on a state when the federal government has no authority. And it's going to be either way. If the federal government wants to spend money on something that they have no constitutional authority, if they want to spend money to finance abortions, I'm going to vote no on that because they have no authority to do that. So, from that perspective, I think if you're pro-life, I think I'm your guy because I'm not going to do anything to inhibit that. If you're pro-choice, I'm your guy because I'm neutral. The federal government's going to stay out of it. It's up to the states. And if I was running for governor of the state of Connecticut, it might be more pertinent. But we need to remind our legislators that we have a federalist system of government, and that the Constitution only authorizes very few and limited powers to the federal government, and that's all they can do. The rest is reserved to the states or the people. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to vote against anything that is outside the constitutional authority of the federal government to legislate or spend money on.
Yes. Yes.
I guess that's it for the question. Oh, one more?
I'm a Tea Party person. I'm not part of your group. If you don't mind a question. My question is, I raised my hand the other day, ended up on the front page of the Waterbury paper with this gentleman. He has a question when he answers it that I like the audience to hear, but I really would like to ask the question of all three people, which is Sam Ballinger, who I never met, his phone call, I listened to on the phone, and also Mr. Bernier. And that is two things. We seem to forget a couple of very important things. One is, Mitt Romney stood on the stand, if you remember back when, being elected as president. And he said to John McCain, what are you going to do with the illegal immigrants? And you're going to send them home as I will. The second question, which is more important, is oil and drilling in America like Sarah Palin. And the third one is earmarks. And you take earmarks like John McCain will. But I want to say one thing to this gentleman. The lady next to me runs my computer. That click of a mouse will elect your next senator and your left thing. That's what's happening with the Tea Party, and that's what's happening with him and meeting other people, Tea Party, all over. I have been to 40 Tea Parties. I've been to Washington twice. We can elect this gentleman, people in this room. So my question to you is, if you would allow a chair of those three people to answer that, I sure appreciate it.
Well, I'll start with energy. First of all, I don't want a federal energy policy. I want to abolish the Department of Energy completely. It's a waste of money. They don't produce one drop of oil. We don't need them. But what I want to do is empower the free market to find the energy sources that we need. I don't want the government to try to target solar power or alternative energy or wind power because they don't know. No one man knows what the right energy is. What we need is market forces. We need individual entrepreneurs looking for profits, guided by the invisible hand, to make the right investment. Because if government does it, if they make a mistake, there is no way to stop it. In free markets, if you guess wrong, if you bet wrong, you lose your money and it stops. And if you do it right, you make a profit and you reinvest those profits and you're growing. We need markets to be involved. But what we need to do is reduce taxes and reduce regulations so that whatever the energy sources we want to develop, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's solar, whether it's nuclear, to make it easier for the free market to develop what we need. Because right now we're putting all sorts of barriers in their place. We're making it harder to raise capital. We're taxing capital. We're doing all the wrong things. We need to drill for more oil. I'm drilling for oil myself. I just financed a project personally and with a lot of client money up in North Dakota. And there's a lot of oil there. I want to get it out of the ground. But I know that governments make it more difficult. So we need an energy policy, but not directed by the government, but directed by the free market. And the only thing the government can do is make it easier for the market to raise capital. One of the things that they did a long time ago that's very bad for oil and gas drilling, it used to be that if you were a doctor or you were a teacher or whatever, and you invested in the oil and gas market, and you were looking for oil, and you're exploring for it, you're drilling for it, it's very expensive, it's very risky. If you lost money, you can at least write off those losses against your other income. You can't do that anymore, because the government says, well, that's a passive loss, so you have to have passive income. What if you don't have any passive income? Well, then you're screwed. So, why is it? If I make $50,000 here and lose $10,000 here, I only made $40,000. The government says, no, you made $50,000. You can't count that loss. Why can't I count If it was a profit, they'd count it. But why can't I write? So they're doing all these things to discourage investment. We need to end that. As far as immigration, look, I am very much in favor of immigration. Just legal immigration. I don't want people coming to this country illegally, and I think we need to defend our borders. But I want to make it easier for people to come here legally, because we need more people. Believe me, the more people we have working, the better off we're all going to be. But I don't want people coming here going on the dole. I don't want people coming here to go on welfare or food stamps. I want people to work, you know, to sell their labor, or to start a business, to bring in capital, to work. All four of my grandparents were immigrants. My grandfather came to New York, and he moved to New Haven to work on the Yale Bowl. But when he showed up here, he didn't have any government caseworkers to help him out. He came here with just a change in his pocket and some skills as a carpenter, but he survived. And, you know, we brought in wave after wave. Immigrants were flooding into this country, 1880, 1890, 1900, 1910. There was no welfare benefits, there was no food stamps, and you know what? They all got jobs. And it didn't create unemployment, because as people came in, jobs came in. The only reason that people are unemployed, immigrants don't create unemployment, governments create unemployment. There's always going to be jobs if government stays out of the way and allows them to be created. So we need immigrants, but we don't want them coming here illegally. And we don't want them, you know, signing up for the welfare program. And what was your third question?
It was just about earmarks. You know,
oh, earmarks. Look, I'm opposed to all that spending. I mean, I don't want the spending earmarked or not. I mean, we need to dramatically reduce government spending. I mean, the government is no different than a family or an individual. Any individual knows if they're broke, right? If they got a bunch of credit card debt or a mortgage and they lost their job and they got to make ends meet, what do? They cut back on their spending. You don't go out to the movies, or you don't take a vacation, or you bring your lunch to work. You find a way to bring into a budget. Maybe you have an expensive car, so you trade it in, you get a cheaper car. You downsize. That's what the government needs to do. We are broke. We are trillions of dollars in debt. We can't afford the size of the government now, let alone to let it get any bigger. The government needs to cut. We need to spend a lot less money. And you know, a lot of Republicans, when they run, they talk about tax cuts. I want to lower taxes. Believe me, no one wants to lower taxes more than me. Half my income is in taxes, and that doesn't even count a lot of the hidden taxes I pay. I want lower taxes. But in order to get lower taxes, we need to have smaller government. Government has to be less expensive. You can't have tax cuts without spending cuts. Any Republican who tells you that is lying. Because if you cut taxes and keep spending, now we have a bigger debt. Who's going to pay for that? The taxpayer. And it's going to be more expensive. Because now we got to pay the interest, or we're going to pay it through inflation, which is even worse. So we need real cuts in government spending. And if we do that, the reward is that we can cut taxes.
Thank you.
I oppose earmarks also. I've taken the earmark pledge, one of the first candidates around to do that. First candidate certainly in this race. My opponent said he was going to not do earmarks, and then he got to Washington, Chris Murphy. Now he's one of the top 5% earmarkers in the entire Congress. But you have my word, no earmarks. Energy, yeah, all the above energy policy. I'd like to drill in my backyard if possible. You know, it's a shame that we have Westinghouse. You folks know Westinghouse?
Yes.